Welcome everyone. My name is Zsófia Bata-Jakab. I am the CEO of the Hungarian Fashion and Design Agency. I'm here today with a very special guest of Budapest Fashion and Tech Summit. She is one of the fashion industry's best-known icons and holds many honors, including the Order of British Empire. I'm honored to be here today with the incredible Suzy Menkes. Hi Suzy, how are you?
Hi there, and I'm honoured to be with you. And I can't wait to see some of the shows in person. And I'm so pleased to be able to talk to you today.
I'm really hope we can meet in person in Budapest soon, maybe during the next Budapest Central European Fashion Week. That would be really great. So thank you so much for being here today. We met a couple of times at the Milan Fashion Week and we had a quick chat. So I'm really excited about to get to know you more today. So let's start at the beginning. How did you first get into the world of fashion?
Well, according to my mother, I was 5 years old when I cut up the newspaper and turned it into a kind of fashion newspaper. I think she may have exaggerated a little bit about my work there, but certainly nobody can argue that when I was at university, at Cambridge University, I was actually taking part in creating things and particularly the actual show that we had. And so I was very much involved with journalism and with fashion right from an early stage.
What an incredible story. Thank you for sharing this. Do you come from a creative family?
I do come from a family that does all sorts of interesting things, and that's even going right up today. But certainly there was a connection right through your part of the world. My great grandfather came from where you are now, and many other people moved in that area. But of course, it was an era of very unsettled. And the fact that they were able at some stage to settle down was an opportunity for my great grandparents and grandparents to do what they really loved, which was music. They did a lot on music, and also they had a business that took art and beautiful arts across the whole of the area. So I think that it was a little bit in my blood.
And otherwise, you have been to hundreds of fashion shows. So, what was the first fashion show you ever attended?
I think I've been to thousands of fashion shows, but I will never forget the first one. I was in Paris because my mother arranged my sister and myself to go to Paris before I went to university, and I was taken by the very grand woman who looked after us. We were taken to see a fashion show, an actual Paris fashion show,
Wow.
and that was the beginning of it all.
Wow. And what made you decide to leave the world of fashion design?
Well, yes, of course, in that era, my mother had organised that I learned how to stitch and sew and all the things that make the clothes. But you know, they're very tough there in France, and everything that I did seemed to be not quite right. And so I very quickly decided that it would be smarter for me to write about fashion, actually to stitch it together.
It's interesting. After Paris, you studied at Cambridge. So during your college years, you were the first female editor of the college newspaper. What was that like?
It was an era in the 1960s when women doing their first thing that men always normally did was very much part of the story. And I managed to get myself on top of the local paper, actually a woman running a newspaper. What an amazing thing. Of course, now everyone just wants this. But they had to break into it. Women had to break in. And I feel proud that it may not have been an enormously important area, but I was the first woman, and have been so many more.
It's incredible. We talked about your beginnings, so let's talk about you. The press often highlights your fierce, witty, and outspoken style. Can you identify with this?
I don't think what I write is fierce. because I'm always trying to find the good and the best design in the people whose shows I go to see, or even better, to go and talk to them and find out what artistic thoughts they have in their minds. But you can't always say, darling, you were wonderful. There is a moment when the show is not as good as the one before. It's not that I'm looking for that, but if it happens, I think it's better to say so, to say, compared to the summer show with all those wonderful colours, this one seemed rather dull. I'm just making up the words here. And I think it's important for designers who are often very sensitive people, but for them to understand that if you are a critic, you're trying to find the best in someone. You're not trying to be mean and horrible. That I can assure you.
It's true. I see. Every fashion leader has a signature look, so you have become known for your hairstyle. How did this iconic look become your trademark?
You know, I so wish I could invent a story and make myself seem much more glamorous. But I'd like you to imagine me. I'm sitting there, and this is the old days with typewriters, those great big chunky things. And every time I moved forward like that, my hair flopped over my face, which was incredibly annoying. So I'd push my hair behind my ears. And then I just showed my middle face, and it didn't look so good. So it's actually somebody in England who invented this idea of my hairstyle. Practical. I can do my hair in the morning in 3 minutes, and I think it looks good. Other people may say it looks ridiculous, but at least they recognize me for who I am.
Don't believe for them. So I absolutely love this story, and it's absolutely practical one. So we are practical people. So I love it. So yeah, you have seen many fashion cycles during your career. Which was your favorite trend? Can you just explain one or many?
I think one thing that was sort of invented in my era a very long time ago was the idea of wearing stockings. In other words, wearing something that covered your legs right up practically to your waist. And it's funny in that now. It's funny now that people should think that that was odd, but remember that when I was young, you was never supposed to wear a skirt that was higher than your knees. So if you wanted to wear a shorter skirt, then definitely you had to have something underneath. So that I would say is a really crucial one. And I'd like to say something else, that although people don't think of it like that, the truth is that this business of having the long way to cover your legs right up to the waist was all to do with what was happening in the world, and the fact that women were becoming more independent and that young women were having affairs, not all of them, but some of them, and meeting up with men at quite an early stage. So what looks like a simple, absolutely simple pair of something you wear on your legs has actually got a deeper meaning to it.
I see. But other hands, do you have or is there also any trend you hope never come back?
I don't like baggy clothes. Oversize anything makes me think it looks like nothing. So that's definitely not my personal style, but I don't think much of it anyway. I mean, what sort of design skills do you have to put into making a square outfit that's like that over the body? So that would be my least favorite.
Thank you. Suzy, can you tell me what are you wearing now?
Ah, that's very interesting because I'm wearing Dries van Noten, a designer who I admire because he's practical, but at the same time he has a lot of imagination. But this is a very special coat because he worked with Christian Lacroix. They worked together, a kind of joint outfit. And so you get all the colour and the extraordinary patterns from Lacroix, and you get Dries's more practical view of what we wear. And somehow I think it expresses my personality because I love beautiful things and crazy things. I also like things I can work in. So it's very special to me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this story. Do you think there are other must-have pieces besides the little black dress that should be a staple in every woman's wardrobe?
I want you to know what a failure I am. I don't have any little black dresses. They're just me. I like things, how could you guess, with colour and that sort of energy and in the design. I do admire French women, young women, old women. Any woman in France knows how to wear a little black dress in such a fabulous way. They always put on a little bracelet or something that makes it special. But I'm afraid I'm not one of them. But there are other things that I think that I particularly like, and that is the lightness of clothes. If people ask me in the new millennium what's the most exciting thing that happened in fashion, I would say not so much exciting but practical, that you could have these very lightweight coats so that you can just carry them around or wear them. And these things are important to our lives. So I would say that sometimes things that seem least fashionable and least interesting actually are really important.
I agree with you. Let's move to on your career part. You worked for some of the world's most famous newspapers and fashion magazines too. What was it like to work for Condé Nast after the New York Times?
Well, working for a newspaper is a very special thing, and it's not really done very much today. There are various reasons for this, but when I was reporting for the International Herald Tribune, that's what it was called, the New York Times was called in Europe, and working for that, it was the words that counted. And of course, it was a time when you didn't have anything digital. And so you just can't imagine my life at that stage. Imagine me, I'm, say, 23 years old, and I've got my children growing up. And every time that there are fashion shows, I have to be able to run really fast, because I had to take the film to the printer, and they would have to develop it, and then they'd have to get it back to the newspaper. There's nothing digital here at all. It was very hard work. And looking back now, you know what I think? It's hilarious the lengths we went to get the fashion pieces onto the page of the newspaper for the next day.
And maybe it's a little bit easier to attend more shows now during the digital era.
Of course, the problem with the digital area, it's not really a problem, but the thing about it is that now you can see absolutely everything. A lot of them, of course, we're talking about seeing online, but you can do either. You can be able to go and see them, but the whole world can see them. And that has changed my whole attitude to being a critic, because I can be a critic for myself and what I think, but anybody thinks now that they can be a critic. And so when you've got literally, I'm not making this up, 10 million people watching a fashion show, of course, it's very different when we were perhaps 500 people who were able to see it.
It's true, and you have to be all the time transparent. I agree with you, and really consistent. So you have written several books in the past few years with a great success. When can we expect the next Suzy Menkes book?
Well, the book that I have written is with the publisher at the moment, and he is the person who's going to decide what and where and when. The thing is that I kept for 26 years, I actually kept reports of what I was doing, and I never put them out publicly. So what I'm hoping that we'll be able to do is, on one side, do the articles that I wrote for the Herald Tribune and for the New York Times and for Vogue, and put those published things aside my diaries that I wrote that told the diaries that I wrote told perhaps a slightly different story.
Yeah, I see. You have traveled a lot of in your life and met countless designers. How can a new designer get the attention of Suzy Menkes?
The first thing I'd say to a designer who's really new, who comes perhaps from the fashion school, is these words. Please listen to them. Try and make your mistakes at someone else's expense. If you knew how many people said to me, I've just come out of college and I want to start my own business, and I say to them, be careful, learn about it first. And I hope they will follow that, but I also hope that they will become individuals and original. That's what I'm looking for. I'm always looking for somebody who's got something to say, whether it's the use of colour in an extraordinary and imaginative way, whether it's the shape of the clothes, whether it might be a collection for men, it doesn't have to be a women's collection. But I always look for something that's not extraordinary, not something that actually nobody would wear, to be honest, like those jackets I've seen in my time with three sleeves. And you know what I say then? I'm always very polite. I say, I think you're going to be a fashion designer, really exceptional. But until women and men have three arms, I don't think that having three sleeves on your coat is a very good idea.
I think this is the tool what you gave to our audience is really important. So all the young designers and all the designers who are starting the whole school period, it's really useful what you just send this message. So let's talk about the future of fashion. You got started in the print media, as we already talked. And what do you think? What is the future of the print media?
The future of fashion, not Britain, our journalists, is in a difficult position at the moment. And that, of course, is because of COVID. And it's been so impossible for people like myself who write articles to make any connection with the designers except by Zoom or online. And I mean, we're very lucky to have that and to be able to do something. But you know, it's different from coming and arriving and seeing a show and judging it yourself. What happens at the moment is that very few people, and I'm very lucky often to be one of them, are invited to come have a relationship in terms of what the clothes are going to be like and what you will actually see when it's shown to the public. You see it in advance, and that requires having a discussion with the designer. And you know what I really think in my secret heart? That when a designer has asked you to come and look digitally at her or his collections, you can't then write a highly critical piece because it's just not fair. So I think it's really going to impact the way that people write about fashion. And I'm not sure it's going to be for the best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see, absolutely, I see. But on the other hand, you are quite active on social media. So where do you think fashion is going in the virtual world? You can also think about the NFTs, metaverse, ER, VR. So it's a big tools we can use. What do you think about this?
I think it's very important for anybody to keep up with what's happening in the world. And of course, I, like most people, can't manage to get quite above some of the things that we're being asked to do and some extraordinary things. And I'd like to give you an example of something that I think is very meaningful. So there is a company now which is trying to help people sell clothes by selling the actual pictures of somebody wearing it. So you choose something. I'm trying to explain this. You choose an outfit, but you don't actually wear it. You don't actually put it on. The digital world puts it on you. So then you can change your outfit every single day if you want to on Instagram and put a different outfit without wasting, without throwing away the previous clothes you had, without buying new all the time, without trying to get cheap things. And you know, that could be very, very important. It's all at the beginning now. I don't even think that it's really settled, but it's an interesting idea, isn't it? That we can show ourselves to others by wearing something that we're not really wearing at all. We're wearing it simply online.
But in this case, that means you think this is a more sustainable way?
We're talking about this word virtual, which is very difficult for a lot of people to understand, not least myself. The idea that you have virtual reality has been going quite a long time now. And I think that it is important and it is something that can go further into the future. But we're right at the beginning of it now. And as so often with these things, you look back and you think, how was it that we didn't do this earlier? I think a lot of important people are working on these things.
I agree. And what is your opinion? Do the manufacturers do enough to make fashion industry more sustainable? The
There are
manufacturers
two
part.
There are two things with manufacturers of clothes that I think are important. The first one is that they actually make a really significant effort to produce clothes that aren't doing any harm to communities, people who have to make them, or for the planet. And I would say, for example, jeans, people know, I hope all of them know, that these dyes in dark blue colour are tremendously bad when they're used in a country setting, say somewhere in Africa or India, and so they stain the water and there's nobody to sort of clear it up. I think that is very important and something that we all should be mindful about. But you know what I think? We have to be mindful also about asking the world to make us too many clothes too cheaply. It shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be young people, mostly young women, making clothes for nothing, and then they're sold, they're taken to England or America or any country, and they're sold for these tiny little amounts. And it's not right. We know it's not right deep down, but people prefer to shut their eyes than to do anything about it.
I agree. We also, the consumers have to change somehow, not just the manufacturers. It's not just about the manufacturers, also the consumer behavior should change in the future. And that's the origo what we can use. But other hands, you have experienced the incredible speed of globalization firsthand. Do you think the fashion industry will ever slow down?
I don't think that the fashion industry can slow down until people don't demand new, better, quicker, particularly that thing now that the companies are boasting that when you buy online, they can get the outfit to you in a single day so that you order it in the morning and get it in the afternoon. I mean, what is that? I don't see why something that's beautiful is just going to be the same, is going to be beautiful whether it's today or tomorrow or the next day. And working backwards the other way, I feel so strongly. This coat of mine that I'm wearing was made, 4 years ago, I think. And it's just as lovely and it's admired just as much as it was then. I don't think the whole of your wardrobe should ever be based on how many clothes you've got. I don't think it's something to be proud of. I think you should be proud if you can say, I only have 6 basic clothes, but I dress them up in different ways and I can make them all look different. To me, that's much more impressive.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. So for the last question, I have the hardest one, I think. What do you think? What has to happen in the fashion industry in the next 20 years? I think this is everybody who is curious after all the last year and our few past years.
I think there are 2 questions you're asking me there, maybe even 3. You're asking me how people will wear clothes. In other words, will they all be clothes that are sustainable, that are made in such a way that you can wash them at home? All sorts of things. We're talking about the actual product itself. That's one thing. But also there's the mindset. And that's the most expensive thing. I'd like to think over the next 25 years, people didn't just base everything on speed and they can find other ways of showing their energy, but not having something that is basically harming the country, not just your own countries, yours and mine, but every country of the world. And if we can think of that, I think fashion can play a wonderful, I think that fashion can play a really wonderful place in making things, the world, a better place. And I hope that I'm still around to see it.
I think that's great for the last sentence, and it's amazing that you think like this, and it's important messages for all our audience what you taught. So it's been a really great conversation. I'm sure our audience has enjoyed this talk as much as I enjoyed. So Suzy, thank you very much again for being here today with us, with our whole audience during the Budapest Fashion and Tech Summit. It's been an honor, and I really hope that we can continue maybe next time here in Budapest in February.
That's wonderful. I'm grateful for your intelligent questions, and I can't wait till next year in Budapest. I look forward to seeing you and all your people who design.
I hope so. Thank you, Suzy, again. Have a nice day for you.
Thank you and farewell.